Watu watutam as if tutakula kiwanja. Everything William Ruto does, Talanta Stadium. Everything anasema Talanta Stadium. Kenyans, today I'm going to explain for you in a very simple term what is happening with our stadium, or what we can call the talent for corruption stadium. Wakenya, up here, this is Abdullahi Wade or Abdullahi Wade National Stadium. It's the home for Teranga Lions, or the home of African champions, Senegalese football team. How much did it cost? $380 million, inclusive of interest and everything, which was built by the Turkish firm called Suma at the per annum interest rate of 5%. Ours, I can fully clarify what the MP for Kiharun Didi Nyoro said, that Talanta Stadium will cost a whooping 115 billion Kenya shillings. Kenyans, Abdullahi Wade Stadium is a 50,000-seater stadium. Talanta Stadium is 60,000-seater stadium. The Senegalese government approached the Turkish government and they triggered what we call Islamic Cooperation for International Investments and Export Credit. They got a very generous offer to borrow the money and to also pay back the same amount they are going to build for this stadium by 2035 at the per annum interest rate of 5%. Let us come to the Kenyan government. William Ruto or Anaconda regime, they never had a budget. So they floated what we call infrastructure bond in the Nairobi Stock Exchange to the private investors, namely the County Pension Fund, Kenya Commercial Bank, that is Tier 1, without forgetting the national insurance companies. We were not able to access the listing of these people who bought the shares from the bond we call infrastructure bond because they adopt what we call restrictive market listing. Hawatoi majina ya watu. So unlike bullet bond ya Abdullahi Wade Stadium, which I've told you earlier, they are going to use the traditional financing system. You pay by the interest rate, and then at the end of it you pay the principal amount. But this one for Kenya is what we call infrastructure asset backed security, IABS. So this is how it works. First of all, the Kenyan government has already raised the 47 billion. This money, once it has been raised, will be given to Chinese Road Bridge Corporation, that is CRBC, which is the contractor, and Kenya Defence Force at the rate of 3.8 billion Kenya shillings twice a year. Every January 8 and every year July 8, twice. And then the other money that is going now to pay back the investors who bought the fund, who bought the bond, which will mature by 2040, is divided into 30 installments. 30. And this is how it goes. The money for Talanta Stadium will be generated from betting, that is sports betting and national lottery, and what we call sins tax. Wale watu wanavuta sigara, pombe, vinywaji, wines and spirit. Literally what I'm telling you Kenyans, if Kenyans leo waamue wasivute sigara, wasigambo, wasikue na lottery, the creditor, that is the originator of the bond, the Lindsay Finco 003, will default, which will put the pension and the savings of millions of Kenyans under the county pension fund into default, into hasara kubwa sana. We are going ahead, Kenyans. When we break down this analogy, the interest rate for Abdullahi Wade National Stadium is 5% per annum. The interest rate for the bond that the Kenyan government created for the Talanta Stadium is a whooping 15.04%, which will be paid until July 2040. The problem is not even the model. It's a bit very similar. Sitaki kutumia stadium ya wazungu. The problem here is the finance model. This stadium that I've told you, Kenyans, it can give you value for money today. You can build F&B Stadium, which cost the South African government $440 million, inclusive of inflation. Leo tukifanya hiyo pesa, it's standing at around $867 million. And the Kenyan one is $850 million. So a Kenyan ningependa kuambia, with the budget of 115 billion, you will fully get an F&B stadium, or famously called Soccer City, which hosted 2010 South African World Cup between Netherlands and Spain. Or basically, you can get 3 Abdullahi Wade's stadium. Kenyans, I really want to tell you something here. Why did William Ruto opt, if not with the infatuation of giving us a white elephant, for a project that is going to cost us 115 billion? That is confirmed because of the interest rate and everything. And we shall pay these until 2040. And finally, nikimalizia Kenyans, there is a bigger problem we are going to have with this. This is private debt. This is a debt that is going to be financed under the Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund. The problem with Sports Fund organization, its mandate is going to end in 2028. We don't know if the National Assembly, the toothless bulldog, are going to extend the mandate. This is the problem that we are having as far as this is concerned, Kenyans. Ile stadium ya national team ya Senegal, they have a system which we call Player Export International System. Senegalese team, they export their talent. And already they are hosting CAF and FIFA matches from the countries that doesn't have the facility. I'm telling you, look at our Kenyan Premier League that relies on sponsorship fund from Sport Pesa at the tune of 1.2 billion Kenya shillings. They are saying they are going only to rely on football matches. I don't know where we are going to generate the money to pay back this amount. While I can tell you, for Senegal, already the money is flowing in. So Kenyans, munafaa kuelewa hii stadium, hii budget ya Talanta yawapea FNB stadium. Mwende South Africa muangalie FNB. Wale watu waliwatch 2010 World Cup. I can tell you the reality. So this is the finance model that William Ruto took. While a country which actually has 132% of its GDP is debt, that is Senegal, he is giving a very nice model, that is the stadium. And the Kenyan one, we opted to use contractors like Chinese Road Bridges Corporation, which already exists in Kenya. So even if we are going to include inflation, logistics, and the last mile approach, still I don't feel this stadium is as expensive as it is. Wakenya, I'm telling you. Meanwhile, Mungu awabariki sana.
The Talanta Stadium you see, the cost is 45 billion in present value. But it is important for Kenyans to know that Kenya actually took a loan of the book of 45 billion shillings. And do you know what? Now, we'll be servicing that debt using sports fund. Every month, 500 million shillings. In 15 years, a debt of 45 billion shillings, Kenya will pay an interest rate of 100 billion Kenya shillings. And therefore, the cost of the Talanta Stadium in Nairobi, the one you see on Gong Road, is not 45 billion. It is the most expensive stadium in the world. It will be 145 billion in the next 15 years. So I've been requesting.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to say, if there is one thing with President William Ruto, you have to give it to him for how he knows how to play with the minds of the people of the Republic of Kenya. The man is good at actually inflating budgets so that he can take his card and lie to the people of the Republic of Kenya that he is actually doing them a favor through these development projects that he carries all over the country. From the video clips that we have begun with, that is one video of none other than activist and one of the Gen Z spokesperson, one of the mind-blowing analysts that we have in the Republic of Kenya when it comes to the matters, financial misdeeds of President William Ruto, GALMA DIDO. Now, GALMA DIDO has opened my eyes into something that I heard that intrigued me to do some digging into it so that we could see the bigger and broader picture of this project called Talanta Stadium. But before we speak about Talanta Stadium, let me inform you of other projects that President William Ruto has been carrying out of the country. From the affordable housing project, from the Mau Summit, from the extension of the railway or the SGR from Naivasha to Malaba. When you dig deep into all these projects, you find that their budgets have been inflated by billions of Kenyan shillings. Yes, we don't refute that these projects are needed by the people of the Republic of Kenya and they are needed for this country to move forward. But why double the price of a project, yet that money that you are doubling in that project could be used to develop the country in other areas and in other avenues. Now, allow us to sink deep into the Talanta Stadium. But before the Talanta Stadium, allow me to inform you of a scandal that was exposed last week by none other than the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Gachagua informed us of the extension of the SGR from Naivasha to Malaba. He told us that there is a company that had offered to do the project for 22 billion Kenyan shillings. But President William Ruto went ahead to offer the tender to the CRBC company, the Chinese company that is actually constructing this Talanta Stadium for 29 billion Kenyan shillings. An inflated budget of 7 billion Kenyan shilling, which means if the company that was offering 22 billion earlier had been given the project, then that project would lessen the burden on the Kenyan people, ladies and gentlemen. But William Ruto prefers to cut off the deals of the book deals with these companies and to lie to the people of the Republic of Kenya that he is building the country. Now, digging deep into the Talanta Stadium scandal, allow me to take you back to the year on November 19, the year 2025. The Member of Parliament of Kiharu and former Chair of Budget and Appropriation Committee in Parliament, DIDO, made some damning allegation against President William Ruto in regards to this Talanta Stadium project. When DIDO spoke, many people laughed it on his face, saying that the man should keep quiet and allow Ruto do his work. And as GALMA DIDO was asked you, when you speak against President William Ruto, you are told, anawajengea Talanta Stadium. Anafanya. I mean, the campaign of President William Ruto, we can all actually pinpoint the projects that he will ride on come the year 2027. Talanta Stadium, affordable housing, the Mau Summit, the extension of the SGR from Naivasha to Malava. But what you don't know is that these deals or these projects are all under one single company, the CRBC company. And this company has been working with William Ruto for some time right now. But what actually angers me is to realize that behind the curtains, this company has been given these tenders without any competing bidding being done. It was selective tender awarding. Now, back to the issue of DIDO. The Kiharu Member of Parliament, DIDO, lifted the lead on what he described as massive off-the-books government borrowing tied to, among other things, the building of Talanta Stadium along Gong Road. Nyoro, who has developed a knack for exposing malpractice within government spending since he was ousted as budget committee chair, sensationally claimed the project would cost Kenyan taxpayers money a staggering 145 billion Kenyan shilling. The lawmaker argued that the country's debt position was far more severe than what government reports suggest, warning that the true debt to GDP ratio was well over 70%. This is according to Nyoro. According to Nyoro, was largely due to the government's tendency to borrow funds off the books. And I quote him, the economy of Kenya is projected to be around Kenya shillings 16.9 trillion. The debt in Kenya is around 12.5 trillion. So when we talk about the debt to GDP ratio, we must never massage the denominator. It is over 70% debt to GDP ratio. Nyoro said during the 42nd annual seminar edition of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, ICPAC, in Mombasa. Now, among other projects, funds were borrowed from official treasury debt records. According to Nyoro, was the 45 billion meant to facilitate the construction of the 60,000 capacity Talanta complex. The MP claimed the funds servicing the stadium would be repaid through the sports fund. But the kicker was that the repayment plan required the state to remit Kenya shillings 500 million every month for the next 15 years. He went on, at the head of 15 years from a debt of 45 billion, Kenya will pay interest of 100 billion. Imagine you are paying an interest of 100 billion for a project of 45 billion. Hi, ladies and gentlemen, things don't add up. So the total cost of the Talanta Stadium will be 45 billion. The building of the Talanta Stadium will cost the taxpayers 45 billion Kenyan shillings. But the interest that is supposed to be paid to the companies or to the to the guarantors or the ones that gave this loan to the country so that they can build the stadium is 100 billion. I mean, that is about times 3 of the actual amount that was used to build this stadium. It is being built for 45 billion, but it will cost the people of Kenya 145 billion. Now, beyond the official public debt of Kenya shillings 12.5 trillion, Nyoro claimed the government was taking on concealed obligations through mechanisms such as securitizations and bank-backed advances tied to fuel levy collection. Nyoro further reiterated that while he was not opposed to government borrowing, there was a need for financial transparency. As far as the Talanta Stadium is concerned, Sports Cabinet Secretary Salim Vuria Halia revealed it was more than 65% done. The CS claimed external works are expected to be done by December 2025, while the facility was expected to be ready by February 2026, which it is not as we speak. Ladies and gentlemen, apart from that, the Daily Nation about 2 or 3 weeks ago exposed something very damning. On 23rd of February, the year 2026, an headline on the Daily Nation read, Audit exposes 11 billion tax scandal. Audit exposes 11 billion Talanta Stadium scandal. The cost of constructing Nairobi's Talanta Stadium has been inflated by 10.8 billion. The Auditor General Nancy Gathongo revealed. In a report, Ms. Nancy Gathongo questioned the unexplained price variation for construction of the 60,000-seater stadium in Nairobi, saying the method of tender award violated procurement laws and the Attorney General's clearance was never sought before the awarding of the tender. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to tell you that China Road and Bridge Corporation CBRC company, a subsidiary of the China Communication Construction Company, is the one that is behind the building of the 60,000-seater stadium Talanta Stadium Sport City, with construction overseen by the KDF Engineering Department. The project is part of a public-private partnership which is funded via 44.79 billion board listed by Lindsay Finkel 003 Trust. The contract is reported as a 2-year engagement to design, build, and equip the stadium. Now, one thing for sure, with this stadium, or with this company called the CRBC company, it is working with William Ruto in off the books. It is being awarded tenders by the government of President William Ruto without any bidding or without any competitive tendering process. which means there is a deal that has been cracked between the CRBC company and President William Ruto, because the company is the one that was given the SGR project, the Ridoni Mau Summit project, the Mombasa sijui ni Kindube project, not Kidu, the Dongokundu bypass. It is the same company that was given the project. It is the same company given the Talanta Stadium project, and it is also involved in the construction of the affordable housing projects. I mean, tell me how you can base the whole development projects of a whole nation on the back of one company. Are there no any other companies that are looking to actually carry out these development projects in the Republic of Kenya? Yes, they are. But they are not being awarded these tenders because they are not willing to part with billions of shillings and to President William Ruto so that they can be awarded these tenders. But CRBC is ready to do so, because I mean they are making more than enough. Kama wamepewa hizi project zote, why shouldn't they compromise even themselves? And kama tumesign, wamepatiwa deal ya tuseme 40 billion na kuna kampuni ilikuwa ina offer to do that deal with 30 billion, which means yes, pia wao wanajua wanaweza fanya hii deal na 30 billion. So the extra 40 billion itapatiwa president ndio wapewe hiyo deal. Mnaelewa vile kanachezo hapa kweli wadau? That is how it is played. And when people like DIDO tells you the truth, sometimes put your tribal affiliations aside and think about the future of this nation. Because when the future comes in play, it won't affect the Mulima people only, nor the Luo people only. You who is singing Tutamo, you who is out there masquerading as a support of President William Ruto, when this comes biting you in the ass, it will bite everybody. Na kwanza wewe ambaye unaimba tutam, karma won't be forgiving on you. Karma will be deadly on you. It will serve an instant blow to you. Because you knew it, you were told about it, but you failed to listen. And that is why I echo the ones of people like GALMA DIDO. Because they are the people that are actually opening our eyes to the real happenings of this republic. People, leaders like DIDO, these are leaders that should be celebrated because of what they actually expose in regards to this regime. For now, that's what's up. I would love to hear your take in regards to the matter. Leave a comment on the comment section. See you in our next video. This is the Kenyan Daily Report.
Kenyans must have seen that the entire government today was in the Nairobi Securities Exchange floor, ringing the bell for the starting of the secondary trading of what is being called Talanta Infrastructure Fund. It is a 44.8 billion Kenya shillings board. Board, in other terms, is borrowing. When government borrows, it can do treasury bills, it can do bonds, which are either short-term or long-term. Now, since on the side of the book that we already know for government debt is already overstretched, now the government is coming up with these kind of facilities so that we do not seem like our debt is growing, whereas we are basically having another secret book of debt. One secret book was fuel levy. The second secret book, of course, is now this one for Talanta, at the behest of, or under the auspices of the sports fund. What is it? The Kenyan government is borrowing today, or has already borrowed, 44.8 billion Kenya shillings. That money is money to be spent today, but to be paid by Kenyans through taxes, and especially around betting and gambling, for the next 15 years, because most of the taxes or the revenue for the sports fund come from those two kind of areas. So we are spending revenue for the next 15 years today, so that we get political capital out of it today. But Kenyans will pay that loan for the next 15 years. It will be maturing in 2040. Now the interest rate is 15.04%. Those things seem just figures when you see them, but they affect every Kenyan. Because at that rate of 15.04%, it means boards that are paid semi-annually after every 6 months, the government will be paying through from the sports fund around 3.4 billion Kenya shillings after every 6 months. So at the maturity of the board in the next 15 years, Kenya will have paid interest rate of 100 billion for a loan of 44.8 billion Kenya shillings. And I'm here wondering, if that cannot make us agree as Kenyans, then what would? Because we are basically mortgaging every stream of government revenue, like Kenya is going anywhere. Kenya will still need a sports fund for the next 15 years. What is the urgency of rushing to overburden the country with a 44 billion loan, which upon maturity will be paying more than double on interest rate alone? From where we see it is a very reckless manner of running the fiscals of a country, because we are now mortgaging income streams of the country. And I can tell you without breaking of an eye that these kind of mechanisms you see, the experienced officers in the National Treasury do not even support it, including the fuel levy securitization. It is only the excitement of some people who are now putting our country in this kind of risk. Any experienced economist, even in the National Treasury, and I'm saying it having been in close interaction, do not support this kind of recklessness. I request the leadership, let us put our country first beyond the convenience of what we want to do in terms of developmental politics. Because Kenya will be here past the next election. We don't need to overheat our economy just because people have to see that something is being done. What we need to know is that Kenyans have always had stadiums. We have a stadium in Kasarani. We have a stadium in Nyayo. So we have not invented building of stadiums today. Kenya has always built state-of-the-art stadiums. That's one. Secondly, Kenya has always built tarmac roads. In fact, if you do in terms of kilometers, there are more roads that have been built in the past than has been built today. So we are also not inventing building of tarmac roads. It then shows you that as we rendered those services in terms of Kenya to the Kenyan population in the past, we never endangered Kenyans with this kind of financial engineering that is reckless. So the book they need to check is the book on how to make the economy be able to generate enough revenue on the mainstream side of it so that we can be able to provide services and infrastructure in the way that we want. But the other side is that we need sincerity from leaders. Sincerity is distinguishing what we need to do for political convenience and what is right for the country. Now, if this government came to power and they realized that all the fuel levy had been securitized by the previous governments, then there would be government to administer what? And it is the same question we are asking futuristically. Now the government is securitizing every revenue stream. Now the government that will be coming, in whichever time, they'll be coming to administer which revenue. The revenue you've already taken loans, borrowed, and misused, or where?
If you are complaining that we have pledged money for 15 years to build TALANTA, before you make that statement, tell us what that money has done the last 15 years. I saw a gentleman say that, William Ruto and the government, they have already pledged for 15 years money from our resources to build Talanta. Yes, we have. That's correct. That's what we have done. But I want to ask the question. The last 15 years, what has that fund done? Do you have anything that you can see that that fund has done for the last 15 years? Nothing. Cabro here, a gate there, some other money stolen at the corner, others appropriated at another place. We are better off pledging 15 years when we can see a facility like Talanta Center standing, because then there will be no money to be stolen and there will be no money to be appropriated or to be misappropriated, because the money will be locked up in an asset that we can see. That's the whole difference. So if you are complaining that we have pledged money for 15 years to build Talanta, before you make that statement, tell us what that money has done the last 15 years.